Hey, welcome back to the All Shift Podcast. Today we have a treat of a guest. His name's Craig Siegel, part of the creator of the CLS experience. Now, Craig has an interesting journey of a guy that grew up not really feeling comfortable in who he was and not really having that sense of anchored confidence, we'll call it. But then what he did is he went into the world of Wall Street. Like he entered this whole world and he found, which some people do find, like while he was having success in some areas, he wasn't having success in the area that he really wanted to, which was his heart. Feeling like he was serving and giving up. In the world hit the most of him, and he found himself in a situation where he ventured into a new reinvention of who he is. He left that world, entered a new world in a unique way, all full of service, and created an amazing, not just a personal brand, but a personal movement that has been adopted by hundreds, if not thousands of people worldwide. It's an amazing podcast, but in today's episode, we unpack what that journey was and how you can apply it to your own life to genuinely reinvent yourself, the reinvention formula. So hop into the episode, and I'll see you over there. Hey, welcome into the show. We're here. I'm with my man, Craig Siegel. How you doing, sir?
I'm so excited to be here with you, brother. Every time we get together, it's just big value, high energy. I always leave the encounter feeling elevated about life. It's great to see you. Let's get nuts.
Let's do it, man. Let's get a little crazy, dude. You would be the guy to say, let's get nuts. That New Yorker in you. I like it. You're like the consummate New Yorker. When I think of a New York human being, I literally picture you at this point in my life, which is a good thing, right?
I want to hear that.
Yeah, you should take that amazingly. It's awesome. Now, we're going to get into a whole lot of things in our discussion today, but I do always open the podcast with a single question that allows me to kind of flow. And then we'll kind of get a chance to get to know you, the human, and then also this cool book you've written that is out into the world. Here's the first question. I'm walking around New York City and I walk by someone that they go, hey, I'm walking here. I'm just kidding. That was pretty. It's like New Yorkist. That's like a racist, but New Yorkie. Anyways, I'm walking around town. I sit down at a coffee shop. There's a guy sitting next to me. Good looking dude. Is you? I don't know you. You don't know me. But for some reason, you feel compelled to turn and start talking to me. In your opinion, why should I listen to you?
Ooh, that's a great one. I love to build relationships, and I love to leave every single encounter, as I said at the beginning of the show, in a positive, elevated frequency. So for no other reason other than the fact that if you're at a 9, you want to get to a 10. If you're at a 6, you want to get to a 7. If you're at a 10, you want to get to a 15. I take great pride in injecting a little bit of life and energy and just good vibes into every single interaction I encounter. Not only you, whether it's my fiance, my parents, my clients, the audience, or even the doorman downstairs. I just like to inject a little bit of energy. So for that reason alone, I think that'd be a good reason.
I like that, man. It's a good one. I kind of do the same thing. I like people to leave my area, my presence better. I don't know what that looks like all the time or how it plans out. But part of me goes I want to make sure that if you have met me and you go, I met this guy, Anthony Trucks, I go, he was a good guy, huh? He was. I want to be like, was he? Because he was pretty sad when I saw him. Like, I don't want that energy. So I find that it's like
every time I see you in person, I leave flying.
All right. That's the idea, man. I am like this. This is not me just like kicking it on and I get off of the camera. I'm just like floating around. I'm obviously, I have days where I'm tired and I get mad, but majority, I'd like to say 90% of the time, I'm in a good, even keel mood. But I know for me, that comes from a life of awareness of the hardships. And I'm constantly in gratitude and like a juxtaposition of how life could have been. For you, where does that joy come from? Does it stem from that? Does it stem where's the energy come from for that positivity?
Yeah, it's similar to you. And it's funny because people always ask me, like, what are you on, my man? And I'm like, you don't get it. I spent so long out of alignment, is putting it nicely. But before I reinvented myself in the pandemic, and I was on Wall Street for 13 years, specifically the last few years right before the pandemic, I was miserable. That was my rock bottom. I just got out of a toxic relationship. My best friend, my pops, had just gotten diagnosed with cancer, still battling. And even though I had my own business and I was making money, which at that season of life, I determined to be successful. I was clearly a bit more immature then, just to be clear. Making money is a part of success, not the whole thing. Yeah. I was miserable. And I thought this was it for me. And when I say this is it, and I think this is relatable for everybody in some fashion or some season of life, I had this realization at that time that my movie or my story that I was investing in, that was it. Like, I'd be a Wall Street guy, I'd make a little bit of money, I'd never truly be happy. I see people that are in love. That wasn't in the cards for me. And work will always feel like work, like a job. And it's funny because people used to say, oh, find what you love. You'll never work a day in your life. I couldn't be more skeptical. And then it occurred to me in the lockdown when I looked at that as a historic opportunity to reassess and realize that I have a choice. I could choose a different story or a different movie. In fact, I could actually change the plot of the next scene and started believing in myself and going after why I believe I'm here, my purpose, my passions, all that. Everything started to come to fruition. And as I always like to say, people are always like, I've never seen somebody blow up a personal brand in just a short amount of time as I did. I'm very humbled by that. But as I always like to say, it doesn't take time. It just takes alignment. And having contrast now, feeling what it feels like to be lost in the wilderness and miserable, and then finding alignment and your purpose. And just to be clear, like you can have it all, the relationships, the career, the money, the fun, the wealth, all of it. And so I want people to know that that's available for everybody when they're ready to receive it. And it's never too late. And I believe that's my assignment right now.
I like it, man. It's a great assignment. And it's an assignment that I believe through and through exists for people. It's hard because I think if somebody's not in the place to hear that, they just miss the message of it. You know, because I tell them all the time, dude, you do whatever you want anytime you want to do it. Like that's the crazy part about life. No, but I got this going on, this going on. Yeah, if you have these limitations that you choose to fight for, you'll get to keep them. I think Gay Hendricks has a quote that he says, if you fight for limitations, you get to keep them. So if you tell yourself, I can't for whatever, and you fight for that, sure enough, you get to keep that situation in life. But there is always an opening. Now, isn't it? It's a good one, man. It's not mine. It's a good one.
Well, when I say it's good, it's because it just hit home. Because that's exactly what I was doing is I was fighting for my limitations till it occurred to me that I could challenge my limitations. And it's interesting because you mentioned like you have to be available to receive it, and I couldn't agree more. And like it's the same way like you can watch a movie or read a book for a second or third time at a different season of life, but this time you're available for it and have a totally different experience. I know that's happened to me several times.
Yep. Oh, same for me. I think that there's that statement too, that it says you can never step in the same river twice. They go, why? Well, because the river is always flowing, so it's never the same. And the man or the woman is never the same. There's always something different every time you do.
AT's got nuggets today.
They're always in my head. I listen to a lot of things. I consume a lot of things I probably no one should. It's always there. So I can rattle it off. It's tucked away. My brain throws it forward and I catch it and it comes out of my mouth. So that's how it works out in my brain.
Like me though, you always look for the message in everything, even if it doesn't look, and I quote, like inspirational to the naked eye, you always extract a message from something.
100%. Like even today, my neck, we had to, just so you guys know, listen to this podcast, I had to postpone this by 2 hours. So I had to go to the doctor to get my neck looked at so I could actually bring my chin to my chest. Like I couldn't move. And in this, I go, it teaches you to really be genuinely appreciative of mobility. Like just the fact that I can move and walk, I can stand like this, like you get like a lot more peace. And then what happens is because you see that as valuable, all the peripherals more valuable. The fact that I can like get in a car and drive my car and I can be in control of where I'm traveling to. Because when you go to these places, I see people who are non-ambulatory. They can't move like me. And I go, man, like I took it for granted yesterday. I didn't realize that me be able to get up and just walk up the steps. I took that for granted, So you get this chance to kind of see. So yeah, there's always something in a moment if you look for it. And I do try to look for it because I try to teach from a place of experience of life. Now, with you speaking to this aspect of what's possible, I would love to know how you accessed it. Like, because you can say like, I saw this and I took a leap, right? But that's not. If I went back and watched your day to day, there had been something more tactical you did, some thought you went through, some process you applied. Like, what's the thing that you did that allowed you to genuinely access that so someone else can hear it and go, oh, maybe I could do that also?
Yeah, this is so powerful. I'm so glad that you asked that because I've become really big into the spiritual stuff, right? Like tapping into a different like frequency and vibration, all the energy stuff. But I always make sure that I marry that with the practical, because if you consume a lot, you'll see a lot of people are, I don't want to say irresponsible, but like all in on the spiritual, and there's got to be a little room for strategy and tactics, right? And also I think that in the beginning of starting something special, and I'm yet to see someone prove me otherwise, there is no substitution for that early season of grind. Right. Like if you want to really make an impact and contribute and do something special, like think about like all the visionaries and the legends throughout time. Like there was a season of grind where in the beginning sacrifices were made and they were all in. And for me, brother, that was in the lockdown when I looked around and I saw a lot of that Tiger show and a lot of day drinking. I just said, that's not going to be me. And I got to work. And one thing that I've been really big on since I reinvented myself is marry the process, divorce the outcome. And I think a lot of people have good ideas, or there's something that they want to do, or they know they're here for something more than they're currently doing, but they think about the end result and it's so daunting and audacious that it paralyzes them from even moving forward. So what I would say to that is I'm big on vision boards and whiteboards and journaling and all that stuff. And you should absolutely set the intentions and have big audacious goals, because you can't hit a target you can't see. But then divorce from that and then marry what can I actually do today, right, to get a first down? And I know you get that, but for maybe our non-football fans out there, like, you don't have to get a touchdown or hit a home run every single day. Not every day will be the 7 or 8 figure deals. But I believe that you can get a first down each and every single day. In other words, you can wake up and move the chains. And that just comes down to effort. So what can you do today to move the needle just a little bit? And then it begins to compound, right? So for me personally, in the beginning, I didn't care about like making money or any of that stuff. I just realized the power of personal branding. And I set out to create content. And just to be clear, I didn't even have a laptop for the first 8 months of CLS. But I was making content and I was going into like lookalike audiences on Facebook and introducing myself and networking, like a virtual handshake, so to speak. And I was extending my reach. And all I wanted to do was just build the community. And I can't tell you how excited I would get like when I went into like a Tony Robbins group or something like that, and I started to meet people and they became familiar and they dug the content and they began to share. That's all I wanted to do, was add value. And then obviously it was time to turn that into a business and all that stuff. But to answer your question, long-winded answer, have the intention, set the audacious goals, but then divorce from that and just focus on what can you actually do today to get a little bit further ahead, and then take that every single day. And in a couple of weeks' time, you look back and be like, wow, look at the progress we had, because it compounds.
I agree, man. I say fall in love with the day, not the destination. That's a little nugget I've given myself, because that's mine. I'll take credit for that one, because I found that I would always love the destination. I go, metaphorically, if I was taking a trip somewhere and it's a place I wanted to go, let's say it was an amazing location, beautiful hotel room, it's going to be the top floor of the penthouse overlooking an amazing view, right? If I left my house and the driver was late to get to the airport, so I missed my flight, and then I got another flight and I got a different seat, I sat next to a crying baby, and then somebody throws up on me, like the whole, then I land, and then I get to the place and I'm in the wrong area. I get taken to the wrong hotel. But no matter what, if I have a crappy trip and I get to this amazing hotel room, I'm still going to be in a bad mood. It's like, I'm fun, whatever, However, if I leave my house and I get to the airport early and I get put in like the little, first class waiting room, and they put me and bump me to first class and have this great trip and it's all amazing, I could get to that hotel and they could say, hey, you know what, sir? Just, your hotel room's going to be delayed. You can't get into it probably another 3 hours. No worries. I'll wander around the property in a joyous mood, right? So if you love the journey to getting there, the destination ain't even going to be as great or as grand as you thought it was, but you'll still be in a good mood and you can experience it vastly different. So I always look at trying to love the days, the craziness, the nuance to it. It's the present that's here. I love your perspective on that, because I personally ring true 100% with my mentality of that. So you have this amazing brand, which I will echo. It's awesome to see what you've built, like the whole CLS, the experience, the CLS experience, I think we can call it. It's this cool thing where not only is the podcast fire, I'm not gonna lie. Let's be honest. I go and pop on my LinkedIn and I go, how did this son of a bee get that person on his podcast? Look at you killing, dude, I love it. I love it, and I don't not like an envious knock you, that's because I know that in order to get into the circles of these people, to have them say yes to you, you got to be of caliber and value. So I love seeing great people like yourself do great things, and then you're rewarded by having a phenomenal guest and great people on their show. So that's been big. You've built this amazing community of people that are all coming in and serving, and you're serving them at a high level. Now you have a book coming out. I want to dive into the book in a moment, but it's cool to kind of create this. My actual question is, when you set out, you talk about set that audacious goal. Was this the goal? Was this the vision? Could you taste this back then, or did it kind of create itself as you move forward?
A little bit of both. And first of all, thank you so much for beautiful words. I receive all that, and you know how fond I am of you too, brother. In regards to that, when I made, like, I remember coming back from a run from Central Park. I just put the CLS brand together. I thought that I had registered years prior that you could buy a domain on GoDaddy. So I did that on a Central Park bench, started my brand right there. And I remember coming home, literally, and I didn't have a laptop at this time. And I turned my phone around like a selfie, but a video. And I basically like prepared a mission statement on what this thing is going to look like. It was the first time in my life that I really had clarity, because I got quiet in the lockdown and I was able to be available and connect and block out interference. And I was like, I don't want to be the next Tony Robbins. I want to be the first Craig Siegel, but Tony's doing something similar. So let me break it down. I don't want to rely upon one thing. I'm thinking like a 10-lane highway, like speaking, podcast, coaching, book deal, and the list went on. And then I was like, all right, that all sounds great. I'm thinking like maybe the Apple of personal development, like very well respected, high quality. That's great. Now let's reverse engineer it. Now, what would literally be step one? And it's to brand myself and to make strategic associations and so forth. So yes, I had the intentions. I have the whiteboard on all that stuff, but also I'll be straight up with you and transparent. Like, I'm still figuring things out. Like, I'm so available now and like tapped in that like most of the coolest opportunities that are coming are things that I did not see coming, right? Because we have a lot of momentum and people want to get involved and so forth. So it's a little bit of both, but I think you have to set the intention, because once you have an idea, something is a possibility. But then you start taking inspired action towards it. Now it becomes a probability. But also be open to audibles and different plays, so to speak. So a little bit of both right there.
I like that, man. And I think what happens is I always look at certain things I can see, right? If I'm looking at a path, I can see down the path, but what I can't see is around the bend. And once I walk around the bend, I go, oh, I didn't know there was a dog there. You know, like all of a sudden there's this new nuance. And so I do like the idea of what you're saying. You craft this vision of what it could be, but then sometimes down the pathway, you are brought into a situation to experience what you didn't know existed. It was the thing you didn't know. And now that you know this, it's wise, I think, to then give it some time, breathe it in and go, does this have an opportunity to be a better direction to go? Or should I spend some energy on this, on the path I'm already headed, and letting things unfold properly? Because I think the world is an amazing plan, and sometimes we mess it up. Like, I think we literally, out of fear or procrastination, we messed that plan up.
You nailed it. And also, like, something I'm learning is like, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Right? Like, you really have to feel what's in alignment with different opportunities and relationships and partnerships, so to speak. So you have to be willing to pivot and to make adjustments on the fly.
I agree. I think it's a big piece of life too, man. We all have to make adjustments on the fly. Like, it's crazy. So we got all the stuff built. And I always tell people you should not be telling individuals how to run a race until you've crossed some finish lines. You have done that. And not only that, you went through a process of like, you were running, preparing for a marathon, you got hurt, you still came back, and like, you got a whole crazy journey. And so like, not only does race fit in the metaphor, it fits for your life, but you have this book. First off, tell me about we'll tell this people, because I know a little bit, tell us about the whole journey there of your experience, the injury and the running process. And I think it was a Boston Marathon. Is that what it was? I'm not sure. It was one of the New York. What was the marathon you were preparing for?
I was training at the time for Chicago. And then I was at a speaking engagement with a couple of our mutual friends. And I was playing football on the beach, and I got hurt, and I came home and it was misdiagnosed as a ligament, but there ended up being a tumor in my foot, which is kind of crazy. But I have this mentality now that I used to not have, which is life happens for us, not to us. And even though I don't know why it's happening right now, I'm going to stay the course and be optimistic and go through the process. And got it taken out, came back benign, had surgery, and then ended up running the New York City Marathon instead, with no physical training, because it was a couple weeks later. And I was able to inspire a lot more people by doing that, make it not about me, and also raise money for American Cancer Society, which was very dear to my heart because, support my pops, and really cancer's touched everybody in some capacity. So that whole thing happened for me. But yeah, I remember talking to you right after that incident. You just brought me back.
Yeah, man. I recall that, like, still got to do your thing. But like, so I say that to go, you cross some finish lines in life. You've navigated some ups and downs. You've done some cool things. And then at a certain point, it was put on your heart to write a book. I'd love for you to share the book. We'll go into all like what the process was to writing it, but also like, here's what I usually ask. Tell me about the book and tell me why the book needed to be written right now.
So for me, and it's interesting because you asked me like what things were planned, what things were not. One of the lanes of the 10-lane highway was a book.
Mhm.
And I thought that would be cool and important when the timing was right. But I never wanted to rush anything since I reinvented myself. And just to be clear for
Yep.
your listeners, like it wasn't only a career reinvention, it was a life reinvention. Like just got engaged. Well, I say just, it's last summer, but we just got a puppy, like my whole life really. So I'm just a different cat now. In regards to the
Mm.
book, like I'm just more patient. So I thought that would be a great idea. I wanted to be one of the lanes, but then I divorced from it. And for me personally, Anthony, I didn't want to self-publish my first book for whatever reason, not right or wrong. I just wanted a major publisher behind me. I think of like I visualize like a movie with a studio behind it as opposed to like an indie film. So that's just the route that I wanted to go. And I had some work to do, right? So I had to earn and build the brand. So I divorced from that and just kept building. And then ultimately, our mutual friend Ed Milet had a ton of success with his book with Wiley. And
Mhm.
Wiley had reached out in addition to a couple other publishers, and it felt like the right time. And it's no secret, I negotiated with them and we got a really nice deal, and it just felt good and it felt like the right time. So I proceeded with that. And why I
Mhm.
think the book is so important for me right now. Well, I believe right now everything that we've done for a little over 2.5 years has kind of brought us to this moment, and I feel like the book is like an official introduction of us to the world, but it's not really about me. So many people are fascinated about what I've been able to do, and I'm
Yeah.
very humbled by it and I appreciate it. But what I want everyone to know is that if I could do it, you can do it, and it's available for all of us. And I had been studying personal development like religiously for 15 years.
Mhm.
I didn't realize it would be my calling or my career. I finally put it all together when I got quiet in the pandemic. But all the things I was studying from NLP, which sometimes can be confusing, and I really break it down to make it digestible. Law of attraction, emotional intelligence, historic figures, Kabbalah, you name it. I've been journaling and documenting it. And I use that stuff to have success in businesses and not being able to run all these marathons at pretty fast times. And then I
Yeah.
put it together to do CLS and have a lot of success on what most people would say is a very short amount of time. So I took all that and I put it into one vessel, which is the reinvention formula, right? Like, yes, I've been able to pivot and do great stuff, but how? Right? There's a lot
Yeah.
that goes into it. Is it the tangible mindset strategies? Is it removing limitations and limiting beliefs? Is it some of the stuff that I've gotten from other things like movies and so forth because I'm weird? It's all of the above. And I
Mhm.
broke it down into a methodology. And it just feels like this is what I'm supposed to do. Like I use the word assignment, like my calling right now is to give
Yeah.
this all back. And, you know, a lot of people, a lot of our friends, like they get a little bit like lose their soul in the process of writing a book because there's such expectations, all
Yeah.
that
I've seen
stuff.
it.
I'm not even worried
Mhm.
about that. Like I just want to do a lot of good with this thing. And I know with certainty that whoever does read this book is going to get a lot of tangible tools and it's going to help a lot of people. We also dive in on sales and dating your audience and building a personal brand and loving yourself. So there's a
Mhm.
lot into it. I've never seen a personal development book like this one. Usually it's like principles or a memoir. It's a little bit of a hybrid. I'm just really
Yeah.
excited about it, and I'm excited to see it hopefully help a lot of people.
That's the plan, man. I like that. That's good. And so with as it's set up, I like the idea of it. It sounds like there's a lot of things. So it's perfectly fit for a person who goes, and this I'm not making this up. It sounds like it's in my head what I'm hearing. Like, hey, I got a career, I got a job, I'm not in love with this thing, but I want to serve the world at a bigger level. I have no idea what that looks like. I want to reinvent myself. This is a book to grab.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Period.
I
End of
like it.
story.
So yeah, like how does somebody know it's their time to do this though? Because let's be honest, there's going to be a lot of individuals who don't have the mentality. Because certainly someone will go, look, I get it, Craig. I don't love my life. Yeah, I'm doing my thing. I'm just going to go through the motions, but it's safe, man. It's secure. I got a paycheck. My wife and my kids, they know what's going on. And my husband, like everything's good. Like the idea of reinventing myself, well, it might free me up and I could light my soul up. What if it doesn't work out? Like who do they have to go in their head and talk to or talk through to get them to get out of that place so they can actually step into this book?
I think playing it safe is the biggest risk we can ever take, straight up. Like, I want to create a little bit more of a sense of urgency for everybody. We don't have forever, right? Like, and souls and spirits. And I believe, like, we are a soul and a spirit having this human experience, right? Your vessel or your suit is a little bit more handsome than mine, but that's a
Some
different
days.
conversation. I'm talking about this human experience right now. It's finite. There's an expiration
Mhm.
date, right? So
True.
we should
Yeah.
never settle for not being in alignment and being in love with life. And I
Mhm.
remember very specifically, I was the type of cat that would wake up on Mondays and I couldn't wait for the weekend, right?
Yeah.
And I thought that work would always feel like a job. And even in some of my dark seasons, like right before I reinvented myself, like I was drinking more than I'd like to admit. I didn't stay there long because I started running and all that stuff, but I was just trying to escape my current reality. And from speaking to
Yeah.
so many people and so many people that come into my orbit and my community now, I see that a lot of people are struggling because they know deep down that they're here for something more than they're currently settling for. So,
Yeah.
first and foremost, if you have that realization, that's a great thing because now you know that there's something else out there. So,
Mhm.
what is it going to take to get clarity on what that might be? And then, what are the action steps to actually lean into that and have a ton of success in a relatively short amount of time? And I think that's what it's all about. And for anybody out there that says, oh, this conversation is great, but I'm 60 years old or I have 3 kids. Look,
Yeah.
it's never too late, ever. And you should
True.
never have this mentality that this is it for you. It's not a whole, like you're not stuck. You just think you're stuck and you do have a choice. And I want everybody to be on fire for life. And that's the relationships, the career, the wealth, the fun, the joy, all of it. And I
Yeah.
spent way too much time not being in that frequency. And if I could
Mhm.
have paid some of those dummy taxes so I can help people do it in a short amount of time, that's what it's all about. So if you know deep down in your soul that there's something else out there, it's never going to be very loud, right? That's usually the ego. Usually it's your soul and it whispers, and you got to
Mhm.
turn the volume up and you have to at least explore that.
I agree, man. There's something to that. It's interesting because as much as I'd love to have like just like inject that into somebody's head so they can get it, it sometimes takes them going to the back ends of like a really uncomfortable situation or life to get it. But it is like like you said in the beginning, like there's no time to waste. This is it's a very small amount of time we'll be here, and we'll call it the span of eternity.
Well,
And the
Anthony,
only
most
thing,
people don't really make that big pivot until after something
yeah,
catastrophic happens, like a rock
unfortunately, you're
bottom
right.
moment. Yeah,
Yeah,
but,
yeah,
but, but
that's
for
the crazy thing too, though.
anyone that's
But
going through that, I would just say this: pain is the portal. So when you're going through that, you got to go through that birth canal, get to the other side, and that's when everything begins to open up. And the
yeah,
pain is really what shapes you and kind of gets you to that next level. So if you are going through it right now, we feel for you, but that's actually the portal to expansion. So keep on going.
yeah, man. All growth comes with pain, man. And there's always that's the it's almost like the price of admission. At some
Mhm.
point, it's like the hardship of it all. But there's also I heard a statement by a guy who used to do American Gladiator back in the day, and he says action ends suffering. Right? There's this level where a lot of us are just suffering and enduring life, and it's going to be a selection of actions that typically you've never done before. They're uncomfortable. That'll end the suffering you're experiencing. So that's kind of what I'm hearing within this. Is like you're not loving it. Time to take a step out and do something. What happened along your journey? Because there's always this other part of me that goes, we're tribal humans. We like to be part of communities and groups, and we got friend groups that we've been part of for years and years and years. If I all of a sudden leave my job, like they're going to look at me funny. Did you ever have that in your experience of like transitioning and reinventing yourself? Other people not supporting it?
I actually did not. And I know that that's rare. For me,
Yeah,
it's like
very.
when I got this class, would you say?
I said very. I think it's yeah. I think usually
Yeah,
everybody's got
yeah.
at least one friend.
A lot of people struggle with that. And for me, it's like I was so excited, Anthony, that I got this clarity. And it's like in my head, I was like, I've been successful at things that weren't natural to me or that I didn't even really like the Wall Street job and stuff like that, and running, which was I love it, but it's not natural. I'm like, I actually love personal development. Like, how can I fail? Like, this is why I'm here. And
Mhm.
for the first time in my life, because I am a recovering people pleaser, the one guarantee that I made to myself when I pivoted and leaned into CLS to reinvent myself, I said that for the first time in my life, I will show up to the world real, raw, and authentic as the real Craig Siegel. And although there's no
Mm.
guarantee that this thing will take off, if I fail, at least I'll fail at being myself. And
Yeah.
that was so liberating to me because I had not been myself for so long. And ironically, the more I began to show up authentically, the real weird and strange me, the more the world began to see me. And it's
Yeah.
funny because, and I'd love to know if you experience this as well. Like in the beginning, some of my friends or some people from like prior to my reinvention, like Craig 1.0, in the beginning,
Mhm.
they were all about it. Oh, it's great. Don't stop. Love the videos. And then all of a sudden, it wasn't so cute anymore when it really picked up steam. And then I never
Mhm.
really heard from them again. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know my thought process. I don't really spend too much time thinking about it, but I think that a lot of people that see you or me or anyone really going for it, I think that triggers something in them like, wow, they had the courage. I'm still like, living mediocre or not really
Mhm.
going for my dreams. And I think that makes them feel some type of way. But that's okay with me because as you continue to grow
Yeah.
and spread your wings, you're going to gravitate towards people of the cat that you're becoming, right? And not so much the cat that used to be. And just to be clear, I'm not saying like drop all your friends and stuff like that. Like do
Yeah.
your thing. Like if you're going to hang out with some of your older friends, like maybe we'll talk about the glory days. If you want space for that, good for you. For me personally, I really protect my energy for the life of me. I want to be around cats like you that are talking about growth and like doing cool things and just people that are in alignment with who I'm becoming. And I want to land the plane with this. Doesn't mean I'm right or they're wrong. They're entitled to their own opinions. I imagine most
Mhm.
of them are happy for me. I like to believe that. But I just want to do good stuff. And I just want to surround myself with people that are on a similar frequency, straight up.
I agree, man. There's always the leaving of a group to enter a new group, and sometimes, and I've had conversations with people about some of this stuff, like even after, like when they've done, like, "Hey, where'd you go, man?" It's like, "Ah, you were busy, man. I didn't want to bother you," that kind of thing, or you
Right.
hear through the grapevine that they're not talking too positively of you. And I've heard, interestingly, I've heard people say the things of like, "Well, he ain't working a 16-hour days like he used to at the gym, so I can't respect that." It's like, I don't think that's the case. And I would find out that what it boils down to is people when they're met with the mirror of what they could have done but are not doing, they have one of two ways to approach it. Especially if you're the mirror, right? They can say, "All right, I messed up, or I could have done better, and so because of that, I'm going to lean in and learn from you." Or they go, "Let me bring this person back down to my level," and they start poking and trying to find areas to make you feel like, "Oh, he's not that great," kind of thing. I had guys like, "Well, I could speak, I could tell my story like he does, I could write a book like he ain't nobody," like that kind of stuff I would hear. And after a while, I go, it's vastly less about me. The emotion feels like, "Oh, how could you say it about me?" But it wasn't said about me. It was said to make them feel better about themselves, to lay their head in a pillow at night and not hate themselves. And if that's the case, hey man, whatever you got to do, it doesn't affect me. But you're right. When you elevate a group, sometimes you leave one behind, but you have to in order to reach the one that's meant for you.
You got it. You nailed that so beautifully. And I want to, can you run that back? Did you say when something about a mirror?
Yeah. Well, you
What
become
was
a
that?
mirror to them. So if I'm with,
We become a
say
mirror to them. Yep.
Yeah. Like I was a high school athlete, and, a lot of guys, I was not the fastest on my team. I had some dog in me though. Like there was a different level of intensity in every moment of how I played. But there
There
are a
you
lot of
go.
guys that, didn't actually get up and go beyond what they did in high school. And so when you see them a decade later, now 2 decades later, the language I would hear from them is, "Well, I was faster than you back in the day. I was this back in the day." Like, yeah, no, but you just ant from run away. Like, at the end of the day, I sit back and go, "Why would you try to demean me right now? What does it benefit you not to give me my flowers, right? To be like, oh, you did a good job, bro. Why can't?" And I go, "Well, only one of two reasons. One is, well, they would have to, do that, and they would actually make them feel bad, because the reality is like, yeah, and I was fast. You somehow you got faster. Somehow I didn't progress on. Like I could have done better. I respect what you're doing. That part, which is a tough ego pull. Most people can't kill their ego to do that. Or the other option is, if I bring you back down to my level with other words I don't have to feel so bad looking up at you." And so they do that. They try to bring you back down because all you are at that moment is a mirror to what they could have done or should have done or what was it possible for their life. And so the realization is that is people are experiencing that in their own, call it vacuum of themselves. But we think it affects us. We think it's about us. It's never about us in that situation, at least that I have experienced.
This is so good. And it's funny because I wrote a whole chapter in the book. And one of the messages of that chapter is that if you don't clap when you see others win, you're missing the point, right? Because even if you don't like someone, but you see them excelling, like game recognized game, what they're really
Mm-hmm.
doing is they're showcasing what's possible. And just adapt the mindset. Like, if they could do it, I can do it. Look what they're showing is out there. And I'll never forget, like, when I first got to Wall Street back in the day, like, I saw a lot of people that were doing very well. And just to be clear, at that time, doing well meant making money. And I looked around, instead of being intimidated like a fish out of water, because I was an introvert, I didn't have sales skills. I was like, if these cats are doing it, it's only a matter of time before I get the experience and outwork everybody. And I carry that mindset today. Even if you see, like, I know social media can be triggering for some people, and I get that. But if you see someone that even you don't necessarily love, if they're doing well, like, in your head, just be like, okay, I see you. Great job. And then disconnect and just understand, like, if they can do it, they're showcasing what's achievable. They're obviously doing something right. And also, like, let's be honest, winners, like legit winners, they don't have time to hate or like throw shade. Because, like I said, game recognized game.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's the same thing. Like, in the world we live in, you see someone has great followers and a cool stage, and I go, man, that's awesome. And the first thing that I do is go, I wonder, like, what did they do that I could do? What can I borrow from, like, what they're doing or applying? And I actually go with optimistic eyes and go see it. Now, I'm not going to say that was always the case, because back when I was a football player, my mind was like, man, this guy ain't that great. He didn't do this. He didn't bench press more. He didn't run faster forward than me. It's like, there's all these things that are irrelevant. That now my energy goes to some place where I'm not actually looking to see what he did to get faster, what he did to get, the award, or like, what are those things that are pulled out? Because when you don't look at it with admiration, respect, what ends up happening is you end up looking at it with, like, this disdain, and disdain doesn't give you lessons. So you can't take anything from this amazing lesson and apply it. So it doesn't benefit anybody to hate. It's actually biblical. I want to say somewhere in, like, Proverbs, it's a whole, like, section that talks about, like, you should never celebrate when someone does poorly. Like, there's no reason to celebrate. Like, what they say, that a coward's greatest moment is to watch a strong man stumble, right? Like, that's what cowards do. That they watch a storm so they can poke out and see, you're not that great. It's true. It's actually, I think it's written in Marcus Aurelius's or somebody's quote where it talks about the man in the arena. I don't know the whole statement, but it goes,
my favorite poem.
It's not the critic. Yeah, see, I'm not going to go into it. It's not the critic that counts, not the one who points out the strong man. The doer of deeds could have done them better. It's the person who was in the arena. That's who gets the credit. The credit goes to the man whose face is marred by sweat and blood and tears. Like, that's the individual. And so the people that are the critics pointing you out, like, they love to see you do poorly. They love to see you stumble, but only cowards do that.
And I just want to challenge your listeners that are listening right now. Like, this might sound uncomfortable. Like, next time you see somebody doing something that makes them successful, even if you don't like them, challenge yourself to say, what are they doing that I can actually learn from?
Yeah.
Instead of throwing shit. And that just keeps you in an elevated frequency, and then you just stay aligned and on fire. But the other perspective, which you've transformed yourself with and corrected, that could be depleting. That does nobody any good. And I love that you mentioned that arena poem. That one gets me every single time.
It's a damn good one, man. It's an awesome one. So where can people grab this book, go get informed about it? Where do I send people who want to get more of this conversation and also get this book in their hands?
Yeah, so we're having a lot of fun right now. You go to the reinventionformula.com. Pre-order is available now, and we're having a lot of fun with giveaways and bonuses. We have a launch team, and by grabbing the book now, you get access to our premiere, what's the most impressive virtual event we've ever put on, which is going to be the week of August 15th. We have a lot of special guest speakers and so forth, all things principles for reinvention, a lot of surprises. So you can grab it anywhere, Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, but the easiest is to go to the reinventionformula.com. It'll show you all the retailers. And then don't forget to redeem your confirmation number and join the team and get access to all the virtual events and cool stuff that we have going on.
I like it. And you do a good job with community, man. If you guys don't have a community you're part of, go check his community out. There's certain people that do well with being able to, it's a skill. I think it's like it's a soft skill, but it's very powerful what it is, which means I can be the head of a community and lead it, but it's not about me, right? It's about the people, and they feel that to where, like, and then also teaching them how to create their community, if that makes sense. And so you do a good job of that. And I admire that of a human being. So if you guys are looking for something that's going to light your fire up and reinvent yourself, go get on this little train, man. Become part of the whole launch group and everything. Because you never know, man. It's those little single emails, messages, the book you get that becomes a pivotal point that changes your life. And that could be Craig's book. Man, I've really enjoyed this conversation thoroughly. And I appreciate, again, you sharing your time, showing up. I know it's a little bit later there in New York, got the stuff in the background. Hopefully you're going to have a good night.
No place I'd rather be with you right now.
I dig it, bro. I dig that. Last question. You ready for it?
I'm ready. Hit me.
Here's a question. What promise did God make to the world when he created you?
That I would showcase that no matter where you are in this life, if you feel defeated or unworthy, or you're not where you'd hoped you'd be, that reinvention is ready when you are. But first, I had to go through my miserable season of life to cultivate contrast so I could then overcome it and showcase to the world how they too can step into alignment, make a lot of impact in the world, have a lot of fun, and unapologetically make a lot of money.
I like it, man. That's what life's about, dude. At the end of the day, it's money is a facilitator. It only comes to you when you give great value by doing, I think, what you're talking to. Be you, be showcasing your complete talents that God gave you. Give those things out to the world, and the world goes, thank you so much. Here's some revenue or some income as a thank you for what you did for me. And then I think from there, it facilitates greatness. You can give money back to cancer organizations, like for your father or for yourself in the situations. You could choose to give of your time freely because you're not worried about paying bills, but it's a lot more you can do when you actually generate revenue from impact in a positive way. So I appreciate
That's
you
a
for
whole
doing
other
that.
conversation we can have. We could do a sequel, but I had to work through that, right? Like I used to
Yeah.
think like you want money, so you want something so bad, you actually create resistance of not having it.
Mhm.
But when you just focus on adding value energetically behind it, the money is an energetic exchange. It's a byproduct. And then
Yeah,
you can do great things within it, and it never stops. So love that
I
you
agree.
hammered that home.
Oh yeah, man. That's when I had to battle for a lot of years to figure out like how do you get to that point? And it is you just give.
Likewise.
Yeah, and you earn the right to even feel comfortable receiving it. That's a big piece.
Mhm.
When I receive money, I want to make sure that I feel like I've given what needed to be given to earn that. Even if it doesn't seem like it's heavy, but like I've got to do something that's of a high level of my energy. So when I get it, I go, yeah, I deserve this. Because the thing, if you look at like we'll call people that win the lottery, when they win the lottery, they quickly lose it. And I don't think it's an accident. I think it's because they don't
No.
identify with the kind of person that has all those zeros. So they go back to a place they feel more comfortable in the bank account.
And also they haven't done the work, right? So like even if their money's overflowing, their container can only hold so much. So it's only a matter of time
Yeah.
before it overflows, spills out, and it goes backwards. So you have to build the
Yeah.
container, also known as what you were just referring to, is building the skill set and the muscle to receive. And that's something in itself.
I agree, man. I thoroughly agree. Yeah, we could definitely have another conversation about that. I appreciate you again, man. You guys tuned in. Thank you for hanging out with us. Could have been anywhere in the world watching cat videos. Who knows? But you got here. You got to hang out with us. Now, if you learned something that was beneficial to your life, apply this thing. Like make a note and go take this one little step and go do it. I recommend getting the book as well. It's a first step. Could be very, very powerful first step. Also, if there's someone in your life who you know needs to hear this episode, share the episode. It could be as simple as clicking on it and going, hey, when you get a second, listen to this. And that's a little conversation where you may not get to get into their heart. Craig's words possibly can. So do that. Outside of that, as always, make the most of your off shift moments so you can make shift happen. It's Anthony Trucks and Craig Siegel signing off. Hey, thank you for tuning into the Shift podcast. I pray that we gave something amazing to your life. And if you found this episode served you in some way, I would love if you could share it with people you know, people you love, as well as your community, because you never know who needs that simple little seed that can grow into something amazing for their life. And the actual training doesn't stop here. If you want your free copy of the show notes sent to you after every episode so you can get the major points consolidated down, simply go to textanthony.com and message the word notes. Till next time, make shift happen.